Imagine waking up in the dead of night, your heart hammering, drenched in sweat. You glance down and a chilling thought slams into your mind. Something vital, something that defines you as a man, is shrinking, vanishing, disappearing into your own body. Panic grips every nerve. You can't scream, you can't run. You feel a terror so primal it feels older than humanity itself. Every second stretches like an eternity. The world around you blurs, replaced by the horrifying sense that your very body is betraying you. This is not a nightmare you wake up from. For some, this is reality. Why does the human mind conjure such extreme fear over its own body? What makes a rational person believe that their genitals, or even other body parts, are shrinking, disappearing, or somehow being stolen from them? Welcome to the haunting world of Koro Syndrome, a psychological condition that turns the body itself into the most terrifying enemy imaginable. It's rare, but its impact is so profound that entire communities have, at times, been gripped by epidemic waves of panic. Today, we're going to unravel why this happens, how the mind warps reality, and why even a healthy body can feel like a trap. Segment 1. The disturbing history. Koro is not a modern invention. Its name originates from Southeast Asia, particularly Malaysia and southern China, where Koro translates roughly to head of a turtle. In local folklore, the turtle's head was symbolic of vulnerability, a metaphor that eerily mirrors the intense fear gripping those afflicted with Koro. The syndrome was first documented in Western medical literature in the late 19th century, but oral history suggests it existed long before doctors began taking note. Epidemics were recorded sporadically throughout the 20th century, with notable outbreaks in the 1940s and 1950s that often swept entire villages overnight. Imagine a small rural town where men lock themselves in their homes, clutching their bodies, trembling in terror, convinced they are losing something essential. Families and friends tried to intervene, but reason rarely penetrated the veil of panic. Koro is not merely a psychological curiosity. It is a phenomenon that demonstrates the profound ways in which fear can override perception, logic, and social bonds. The anxiety experienced is visceral, compelling sufferers to take extreme measures in desperate attempts to prevent the imagined loss. Although male genital retraction is the most common manifestation, Koro is not limited to men. In rare cases, women have reported intense anxiety over the shrinkage of breasts or nipples, reflecting a similar deep-seated fear of bodily violation or loss. Anthropologists describe Koro outbreaks as mass psychogenic illnesses, collective delusions that are remarkably contagious, spreading faster than any virus through fear alone. Entire communities can be gripped simultaneously, creating a shared climate of terror. One detailed account from Singapore in 1967 describes an entire neighborhood paralyzed by anxiety. Men reported sudden shrinkage of their genitals after hearing rumors about a cursed herbal potion circulating in the city. Panic escalated to the point where some sought urgent medical attention, while others attempted dangerous home remedies, tying cloths, applying herbs, or even physically trying to pull their bodies back into safety. In these moments, Koro becomes more than a syndrome. It is a window into the human psyche, revealing how cultural beliefs, social pressures, and fear can converge into a real and gripping epidemic. Segment 2. The scientific explanation and symptoms. So, what happens inside the brain to make someone believe that part of their body is disappearing? Psychologists categorize Koro as a culture-bound syndrome, meaning it is heavily influenced by local beliefs and folklore, but the underlying mechanisms are universally human. At its core, Koro is a convergence of acute anxiety, body dysmorphic distortions, and a form of cognitive misperception. The brain misinterprets ordinary bodily fluctuations, changes in temperature, circulation, or tactile sensation as catastrophic shrinkage. Even something as natural and harmless as a nocturnal contraction of the penis can be perceived as irreversible loss. During an episode, research indicates a surge of stress hormones, particularly cortisol and adrenaline, floods the nervous system. These chemicals heighten sensory perception, Hands feel icy, skin seems unnaturally tight, and minor bodily sensations are amplified into alarming, threatening signals. The mind becomes trapped in a feedback loop. Anxiety magnifies perception of change, and perceived change intensifies anxiety. This explains why Koro can escalate so rapidly, often overwhelming logic or reassurance from others. Symptoms of Koro commonly include sudden panic or intense fear that the genitals, or breasts in women, are retracting. Physical signs such as sweating, palpitations, dizziness, and nausea, and urgent attempts to prevent the imagined shrinkage, which may involve extreme restraint or even self-harm. Episodes can last from minutes to several hours, though in rare cases, lingering anxiety may persist for days. Koro also intersects with other psychological phenomena. It resembles somatic symptom disorder, where minor sensations are misinterpreted as life-threatening, and parallels body dysmorphic disorder, characterized by obsessive concern over imagined defects. Yet Koro is uniquely shaped by cultural context, demonstrating how belief systems can transform ordinary perception into intense fear. It is a striking reminder that the human mind does not passively interpret reality. It can actively warp it into a vivid, terrifying experience. Segment 3. A famous real-world case study. Perhaps the most famous modern case comes from Singapore in 1967, where an outbreak involved hundreds of men. One striking story comes from a 35-year-old man, whom doctors referred to anonymously as Mr. Lim. Mr. Lim woke one morning convinced that his penis had shrunk to nearly nothing. His anxiety was so severe he could barely walk. He tied a rope around himself to try to prevent loss and attempted to call the police, believing that the government could intervene. Friends reported that he refused food and drink for several hours, consumed only by the terrifying conviction. When medical professionals examined him, they found no physical abnormalities whatsoever. Yet the experience was real, psychologically, neurologically, emotionally. Mr. Lim's panic spread through his neighborhood, with dozens of men reporting similar symptoms. Health authorities were forced to intervene with mass education campaigns, explaining the harmless physiological reasons behind natural variations in genital size and debunking rumors of curses or toxins. Cases like Mr. Lim's highlight the most chilling aspect of Koro. The fear doesn't need physical reality to feel utterly real. The mind's conviction is enough to trigger life-altering terror. The twist in application. You might be breathing a sigh of relief right now, thinking, that could never happen to me. But consider this. Have you ever experienced a sudden, irrational panic over something your body does, like a racing heartbeat, a fleeting numbness, or an intrusive tingle in your limbs? Maybe for a few moments you convinced yourself that a tiny symptom was a harbinger of disaster. That fleeting terror, though brief, is Koro on a spectrum, a stark reminder of how fragile and vulnerable we can be to the interpretations our own minds create. In everyday life, these small episodes might manifest in seemingly mundane ways. Anxiety over minor skin changes, sudden worry about hair loss, or a panicked reaction to a twinge in the chest. People may obsessively check or touch their bodies, seeking reassurance for entirely normal physiological functions, or repeatedly ask others to confirm that everything is okay. These behaviors may seem minor, but they hint at the same cognitive vulnerabilities that underpin more extreme syndromes. Koro takes this universal vulnerability and magnifies it to its most terrifying extreme. It forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. The human mind, brilliant and complex, is also capable of betraying us. It can convince us that our bodies are shrinking, dissolving, or turning against us, even when there is no physical evidence whatsoever. And the consequences of this belief are not confined to the individual. Fear, once it takes root, spreads easily. It can warp perception, amplify anxiety, and in some cases ripple outward, infecting entire communities with collective panic. Koro, in essence, is a mirror, reflecting the astonishing power and fragility of human perception, showing that our minds can sometimes become the very source of the horrors we dread. And if the mind can turn the body into a terror of its own making, what other parts of ourselves can it convince us are dangerous? Are the fears lurking in your mind always real? Or are they subtle manipulations by the brain itself, distortions of perception waiting to explode?